Favor say aye. Aye. Those in favor say no. No. It's the opinion of the chair that the ayes have it and the resolution is agreed to, and without objection the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentlelady from the great state of New York, Nicole Maliotakis.
The gentlewoman from New York is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've heard from my colleagues the reasons why the Representative Omar should be removed from this committee, but I feel like all the reasons have not just yet been stated, which is why I rise to add for the record. We've heard about the comments that were made regarding anti-Semitism and anti-Israeli views, but I rise to add to the record that as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I've sat there and heard the representative actually spew anti-American rhetoric as well.
In a tense and highly charged moment with the press, former President Donald Trump made his position unmistakably clear when questioned about the congressional censure of Representative Ilhan Omar. Without hesitation, he declared that censure wasn't enough. She should face impeachment, citing what he described as a troubling record in Congress. Trump voiced deep disappointment, questioning how someone who had once escaped hardship in Somalia, a country still battling instability and corruption, could turn around and criticize the very nation that offered us safety and opportunity. His words sent ripples through the political world. Supporters hailed his remarks as bold and unapologetically honest, while opponents argued that his tone was unnecessarily severe. Yet, regardless of perspective, one thing was certain: Trump's statement reignited an already fiery national debate. He emphasized that when an individual gains so much from the promise of America, respect and gratitude should naturally follow. To him, Omar's behavior reflected the opposite, a sentiment he said many Americans quietly shared. His voice carried a mix of frustration and disbelief, mirroring the emotions of countless citizens who have watched her controversies unfold on the national stage. Meanwhile, inside the halls of Congress, anticipation filled the air as lawmakers gathered for the critical censure vote. The debate had stretched for hours, marked by sharp exchanges, passionate defenses, and visible exhaustion on both sides of the aisle. The Speaker's gavel brought the chamber to attention, and as the roll call began, the atmosphere thickened with suspense. Lawmakers leaned in, eyes locked on the digital board, knowing this moment would echo far beyond the walls of the Capitol. When the final tally appeared, a wave of reaction swept through the chamber. Gasps, whispers, and scattered applause broke the silence as the Speaker announced that the motion to censure Ilhan Omar had officially passed. For some, it was a long-awaited affirmation of accountability. For others, it was a moment of disbelief and reflection. The decision was more than a procedural punishment. It marked a defining stance on the standards expected from those who serve the nation. In the end, the House sent a clear message: holding public office is not just a privilege, but a solemn duty where every word and action carries weight far beyond politics.
I've been in that committee room where the representative equates Israel and the United States to Hamas and the Taliban. Absolutely unacceptable for a member of that committee. I've also heard the representative equate that it is the United States' fault that there is turmoil in Venezuela, that is not because of the oppressive socialist and communism that has spread throughout Central and South America, in Venezuela at the hands of the Maduro and Hugo Chavez regimes. That is unacceptable. And as a New York representative, to hear the representative belittle, to try to diminish the worst terrorist attack on United States soil on September 11, 2001, as some people did something, that is unacceptable as well. And I hold the same standard for this side of the aisle that I do the other, because when another colleague on my side said something about 9/11, I also voted to have her removed from the Education Committee because I thought that was inappropriate. So I'm being consistent here, and I hope my colleagues will do the same to show that this is about consistency and accountability, because we should not have an individual with those views on the committee that is tasked with representing our country and our Congress to foreign nations. I yield back.
New York Representative Nicole Maliotakis delivered one of the most forceful addresses of the entire session, confident, measured, and unwavering in her stance. Speaking with conviction, she called out Representative Ilhan Omar's past remarks that, in her view, blurred moral lines and undermined the principles America stands for. Drawing on her own experience serving alongside Omar on key committees, Maliotakis reminded the chamber of moments when the Congresswoman had drawn troubling comparisons between the United States, Israel, and groups recognized globally for violence. To Maliotakis, such words were more than political missteps, they were deeply irresponsible. Her tone grew firmer as she declared that elected leaders must never question America's loyalty to its allies or cast doubt on its values. Every sentence carried weight as she described the duty lawmakers have to speak truthfully, especially on matters involving national security and global freedom. She accused Omar of misplacing blame for international crises, including Venezuela's collapse, on the United States, while overlooking the damage done by corruption and authoritarian rule. The speech felt less like partisan theater and more like a call to conscience, a plea for moral clarity and accountability inside the nation's most powerful chamber. Maliotakis spoke not only as a legislator but as a New Yorker who witnessed the tragedy of 9/11 and its lasting scars. Her words struck a chord when she revisited Omar's widely condemned description of the attacks, a phrase that had once stunned Americans with its apparent detachment. Lawmakers listened in silence as Maliotakis reminded them that those few words reopened wounds for thousands of families who still mourn. The criticism was not about a single sentence. It was about empathy, memory, and respect for a nation's shared grief. As the debate continued, the chamber seemed to hold its breath. The echoes of that tragedy hung heavy, reminding everyone that leadership carries not just authority, but emotional responsibility. For Maliotakis and many others, remembrance demands reverence, and accountability remains essential before forgiveness can begin. Her remarks left the room reflective, a solemn reminder that the past is never truly behind us when its lessons remain unheeded.
The gentlelady yields back.
The budget. Whereas Charlie Kirk was a lifelong advocate for freedom of speech, civil political discourse, and the political engagement of youth. Whereas Charlie Kirk was a man of deep faith, a husband, and a father to 2 young children. Whereas on September 10, 2025, Charlie Kirk was assassinated on the campus of Utah Valley University while exercising his First Amendment right to freedom of speech. Whereas on September 11, 2025, one day after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Representative Ilhan Omar gave an interview on Zateo's town hall with Mehdi Hassan in which she smeared Charlie Kirk and implied he was to blame for his own murder. Whereas on September 12, 2025, 2 days after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Representative Ilhan Omar reposted a video on X, formerly known as Twitter, which disparaged the character of Charlie Kirk and those mourning his death. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X states Charlie Kirk is dead, and before the body got cold, the far right propped his corpse up as a...
The official House resolution read less like routine legislation and more like a somber record of accountability. Line by line, it outlined the allegations against Representative Ilhan Omar, describing her recent actions as a serious breach of judgment and decorum. Central to the document was a decision to repost a video that appeared to ridicule conservative commentator Charlie Kirk, just days after his tragic assassination. The resolution condemned the act as deeply inappropriate and unbecoming of a member of Congress, asserting that it undermined both the integrity of the institution and the trust of the American people. The document went further, calling for her immediate removal from key committees and a formal public censure before the full House. Lawmakers described the behavior as incompatible with the standards expected of those who represent the nation. Beyond its legal phrasing, the resolution carried a moral undertone, a reflection of growing frustration among citizens who feel that words and actions in public office should come with consequences. As it was read aloud, the chamber grew still. To many watching from home, it felt like a turning point, an effort to restore a sense of principle and responsibility in a system that often seems to overlook both. The tragedy of Charlie Kirk's death had already cast a shadow across the country. Known for his tireless advocacy of civic engagement among young conservatives, Kirk had built a national following through his unapologetic belief in dialogue, faith, and freedom. His sudden and violent death left supporters mourning and communities in shock. In the midst of that grief, Omar's online post appeared tone-deaf to many, a gesture that, rather than uniting in compassion, reopened divisions. The reaction was swift and emotional. What might have been a moment of collective mourning turned instead into a wider reflection on the loss of empathy in modern politics. For many Americans, this was no longer about party lines or policy differences. It was about the simple expectation of human decency. The backlash revealed something deeper, a public yearning for leaders who respond to tragedy with dignity, restraint, and respect. As the resolution was recorded into the House archives, it became more than just a disciplinary measure. It stood as a written reminder that compassion must never be sacrificed for partisanship, and that the moral weight of leadership is measured not only in votes, but in values.
For their holy war. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X further states, don't be fooled. These people don't give a single shit about Charlie Kirk. They are just using his death to further their Christo-fascist agenda. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X further states Charlie Kirk was a reprehensible human being. He enacted his political agenda by preying on weak-minded people. He took complex socioeconomic issues and simplified them by pointing fingers at outgroups, demonizing those groups, and sicking his massive following on them. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X further states Charlie Kirk was a stochastic terrorist, an adamant transphobe. He denied the genocide happening in Palestine. He believed the subjugation of women, and in his last dying words, he was spewing racist dog whistles. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X further states, Charlie Kirk was Dr. Frankenstein, and his monster shot him through the neck. Whereas the video Representative Ilhan Omar reposted on X further blames Charlie Kirk for his own murder. Whereas Clause 1 of Rule 13 of the Rules of the House of Representatives provides a member, delegate, resident commissioner, officer, or employee.
When Representative Ilhan Omar's remarks began circulating online, the reaction was swift and overwhelming. Within hours, social media feeds, television panels, and congressional offices were consumed by the growing controversy. Hashtags demanding her removal surged to the top of trending lists, fueled by citizens, journalists, and political figures alike. Commentators described the moment as one of collective outrage, a rare instance where voices from across the political spectrum agreed that a public line had been crossed. Many Americans, still mourning a national loss, saw her comments as deeply insensitive to the pain of others. The response extended beyond partisan boundaries. While most criticism came from conservative circles, even some members of her own party admitted privately that the situation was difficult to defend. Yet, Omar offered no immediate apology, no clarification, and no attempt to explain her intent. That silence only added to the tension. To many, it came across not as strength, but as disregard, a refusal to acknowledge the emotional weight her words carried. What began as a single incident soon evolved into something larger, a public outcry against the erosion of empathy and accountability in political life across the nation. Frustration turned into determination. Americans from all walks of life expressed a shared exhaustion with the double standards that often shield public officials from consequences. The controversy became symbolic, a reflection of a broader divide between political elites and everyday citizens who expect their leaders to uphold basic decency. Online discussions, talk shows, and local gatherings all echoed the same message. Accountability should never depend on party lines or convenience. Then came the stunning outcome. The censure resolution failed by a single vote. That narrow margin instantly became one of the most debated moments in recent congressional memory. Several Republican lawmakers had crossed the aisle, joining Democrats to block the measure. What could have been remembered as a bipartisan stand for principle instead became another example of Washington's growing paralysis. The disappointment among conservative voters was palpable. Many felt let down by those they had trusted to represent their values. Figures such as Representative Chip Roy and Senator John Kennedy later spoke openly about the episode, warning that moral courage cannot be selective. They argued that public service demands consistency, that doing what's right should never hinge on political calculation. The episode left a lasting mark, exposing just how divided Congress has become. Even in moments that call for moral clarity, the pool of partisanship continues to overshadow the nation's greater need for unity and integrity.
Employee of the House shall behave at all times in a manner that shall reflect credibility on the House. Whereas Representative Ilhan Omar's actions in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk are reprehensible and affect the dignity and integrity of the proceedings of the House and do not reflect the credibility on the House. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota be censured. Representative Ilhan Omar forthwith present herself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure. Representative Ilhan Omar be censured with the public reading of this resolution by the Speaker, and Representative Ilhan Omar be and is hereby removed from the Committee on Education and Workforce and removed from the Committee on the Budget of the House.
As news of the deportation controversy gained traction nationwide, Representative Ilhan Omar found herself at the center of a media storm. During a live television interview meant to clarify her stance, the tone shifted unexpectedly. What began as a calm discussion soon turned tense and deeply personal. The moment Chip Roy's name was mentioned, the congressman spearheading the effort to have her removed from key committees, Omar's composure appeared to falter. Her expression reflected visible frustration as she accused her critics of unfairly targeting her faith and background. But instead of softening the debate, her remarks reignited it. Commentators noted that rather than addressing the specific concerns raised in Congress, she redirected the conversation toward her personal experiences and identity. To many watching, it seemed like a missed opportunity for accountability, a moment where explanation was needed but deflection took its place. Almost immediately, the reaction online was intense. Viewers flooded social media with divided opinions. Some defended Omar, saying she was being unfairly cornered, while others accused her of avoiding responsibility. The tone of the conversation turned heated, mirroring the broader tension already gripping Washington. What was supposed to be a clarifying interview ended up deepening public frustration. Political analysts later observed that the exchange highlighted a growing challenge in American politics, the inability to separate critique from identity. Many felt that instead of bridging understanding, the interview widened the gap between Omar and the very audience she sought to reach. The moment left an impression not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't, a visible reminder that transparency and accountability often speak louder than emotion.